My name is Earl Willis Jr. Today is December the 14th, 2017. We're in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and we're at the Bob Kirby Library. Today I'm talking to Mr. Bob Talley.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Talley, we're going to start off with some kind of basic questions. Where and when were you born?
I was born on the east side of Indianapolis at Community Hospital, May 20th, 1967.
1967. And you were born in Indianapolis?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any siblings, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, any kind of family that were in the military?
Yes, sir. My military history goes back to, I think, World War I, as far as uncles and great uncles. And my father deceased. He passed away when I was 5. He was in the Army, I believe. My stepfather retired from the Army, 82nd Airborne. He was stationed at Fort Harrison up in Indianapolis.
Okay.
I have uncles that were in the Navy, the Marine Corps, Merchant Marines, the Army. I don't know. I think I'm the first one that got into the Air Force.
Okay. Did you talk about that when you were growing up any?
Sure.
Okay. So how did you talk about it? Did you talk about the stories or what they did, or what did you talk about?
Well, I would talk to my uncles as I got older. I would just listen to them. My stepfather, who recently passed away this month, he was in Vietnam. He had served 3 tours, and he was 2 tours. He requested a 3rd one. And about the stupidest question I've ever asked anybody in my life was, I said, Don, with all the hell in Vietnam, why did you volunteer for a 3rd time? And he was wounded twice. He said, because of your Uncle Carl, your Uncle Tommy, and your Uncle Jerry. See, Don was the oldest living son. So as long as he was in a hot LZ, so to speak, they wouldn't push getting another brother in unless the brother insisted.
Okay.
So my 3 uncles spent their Vietnam service, one in Germany, one in Florida, of all places, and I want to say he got to Vietnam, but he never saw any action toward the end. Okay.
So that kind of makes me think about if you've seen the movie Saving Private Ryan.
Yes.
And they went to go make sure that both of her sons didn't die in war. So that was kind of like your stepfather. Felt like he was maybe doing the lion's share for his family. They think it, or that
exactly.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense because he was born in Virginia, very rural, very poor, very country. And it was just his way that he was raised, and he loved his brothers. So he was a very conflicted man. He was a hard man to love, but he served his country. He's due that respect, and he loved his brothers. And he had a good career. I spent a lot of time at Fort Harrison. I got to meet people from all around the world, and it certainly made me more open to service.
Okay.
When I got older.
Okay, so that definitely sounds like you had an influence. You had influence going into maybe like your after high school or the high school years.
Yeah, I graduated in 1985, and I worked for a couple of years, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I know I didn't want to go to college. Not to sound conceited, I was a straight A student. I studied hard. I played football, varsity basketball. I was into sports, but I just wasn't ready to go do that college thing yet and study again. I wanted a little bit of a break, and I came to Bowling Green and talked to the recruiters, talked to the Army recruiter, Air Force recruiter, and I thought about going into 82nd Airborne, following his footsteps. And this is the true story. So the Army recruiter calls a house, and Don answered. Don listened, and I got that look. He said, hell no, he ain't going into the damn Army. End of the conversation. Next day we got in the truck, we drove back to Bowling Green, he marched me right into the Air Force recruiter and said, this is where you need to go, son.
Now, what year was that?
In 87.
87. So where did you go to high school at?
I went to high school in Indianapolis at Warren Central High School. It was basically a small college. I mean, my graduating class If I'd stayed in Indianapolis, I think like 3,200 students.
Okay.
And then all my mother's family and ties are down in Tompkinsville, Kentucky. And I just loved it growing up. So I convinced my mom to let me move to Tompkinsville my senior year. My mom was about to retire, and Don had already retired. And my grandmother was still alive then, and my Uncle Roy. And I just loved it.
So that's your connection to coming back to Kentucky.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would spend summers in Kentucky, and it was almost like reserve duty. We'd at least come one weekend a month and see Oh, yeah.
Okay. So the recruiter called your house, and you were still in the...
I was working locally at Kentucky Apparel.
Okay.
I worked in what they call the dye house. At the time, we would have contracts to dye clothes for Ocean Pacific, Aero dress shirts, where you put in the clothes and the dye and you set the color and all that stuff.
Okay. So the Army recruiter called, and your stepfather was more or less told him right out, but nah, he's not going to be in the Army.
Well, and he told me straight, he says, son, if you was dumb and ignorant, be a grunt like I was, go. But he knew I did well in school. I was a smart young man. And I got into the Air Force, no problem.
Okay. So do you think that was his way of looking out for you?
Yeah, it was. The recruiter was a Sergeant Greathouse. I remember him. Nice guy, but he was a recruiter. And my plan was to go into the service, be a security police officer or something of that nature, then get out whenever. I hadn't even decided if I wanted to make it a career or not, and come back and be a Kentucky State Trooper.
Okay.
That was my plan. And when I accepted Open General, like I said, I'm trying not to be disrespectful because Sergeant Greathouse was a really nice guy. But he did that recruiter thing.
Yeah, they tell you what you want to hear.
Well, yeah. Bob, big as you are, young, clean record, well, you go down there at Lackland, they'll make you a security officer. I ended up being in a hospital working in what they call nutritional medicine because I went Open General. It was what they needed that week. And that's how I got where I was.
Yeah. There, recruiters, I've talked to all the veterans I've talked to, and I've been around the military all my life, and my mom used to work at the recruiting station, the Army and stuff. They tell you they're salesmen.
Oh, exactly.
And so, they're salesmen. So, that's their job. And so, you wanted to kind of maybe go into like law enforcement or some kind of military, like MP or something like that.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Okay. And so, did you sign up then, or?
Well, yeah, I already knew I wanted to serve my country. This is before. Well, I ended up serving during Storm and Shield. But when I had entered the military, there wasn't nothing going on. I just wanted to do my part. Like I said, I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay 20 years or just do one tour, one enlistment.
Yeah.
But it was important for me to, like my uncles and family before me, do my part.
You felt like well, it's time for me to step up and do mine.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, how did your stepfather and your mother feel about you joining the Air Force?
Oh, they were tickled to death.
Your stepfather was?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was either the Air Force or going to the Navy.
Okay.
And we decided I'm just a hair under 6'8", and we didn't think Navy ships or submarines would be.
Yeah.
But they would want people educated, motivated, to do the computer things and more advanced training. And, he just didn't want me to be out in the field like he was, and, that I could do better.
Okay. So do you remember being sworn in? I always like to ask people, do you remember being sworn in and raising your right hand?
I remember both of them.
Okay.
Because you're not really, Uncle Sam's not branded on you until the second oath of, the oath of enlistment.
Okay.
The first one is just, there's nothing really. I mean, it's a process. The second one is when you become property of Uncle Sam. And I remember them both. I went to the Nashville MEP station and spent the night each time and the physical and all that stuff. And got processed.
So you got sworn in Nashville,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So how many people were there in there when you got sworn in?
Probably 22 to 25.
How did you feel when you got sworn in?
I was proud.
Proud?
Oh yeah, I was tickled.
Yeah. So where did you do your basic training at?
I did my training at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas.
Okay, that's a very big Air Force.
Base, yes sir.
Yes, sir. Do you remember how you got there?
Oh yeah. My mom and stepdad drove me down to the airport in Nashville. Got on a plane. We flew from Nashville to Atlanta, and I had to transfer over to another plane and go from Atlanta to Texas.
Okay. Is that the first time you flew on a plane?
Oh no, sir. I've been flying in planes since I was 8-10 years old.
Okay. Because most time I talk to people, that's maybe the first time they've been on an airplane.
Well, I remember a guy it was just coincidental. There was another kid from, where was he from? Oh, somewhere east, Connecticut, Massachusetts, something like that, up northeast. And he was going to Lackland with me. And we were talking, had a good time. He laughed at my accent, and I was laughing at his.
Yeah.
Because he had that. I don't remember where he was from exactly, but he had that northeast. We go to bars and drive cars.
Cars,
you know,
yeah.
And we looked at each other and said, "Well, you reckon we ought to get a drink before we go?" I said, "Sure." And we were both underage. We weren't even. I think I was 20 because I turned 21 in the
So
summer.
you had a New England accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember we both had 2 bottles of Jack Daniels. The stewardess gave them to us for free because we were enlisted in Air Force.
Okay.
And we had a little bit of we were warm and fuzzy when we got off the plane to go to Lackland.
And so he made fun of your Kentucky accent.
Oh, he didn't make fun of it.
Oh, he was just kind of ribbing you.
Yeah, he was just ribbing me. Well, yeah. But it was all in good fun.
Good fun.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you got to Lackland Air Force Base?
Yeah. The warm and fuzzy feeling left quick.
When you got there, did you ride on a bus?
Yeah, we rode a bus. We got off the plane. We were directed to a room. We waited for other recruits. I think we waited like 2 hours because I remember once we got all together on the bus, we got to Lackland, and then they fed us. They got us squared away in our bunks, and they woke us up, I think, at 10 o'clock.
Okay. Did they get on the bus with you when you got there, or wait till you get off? Wait, as soon as you got off the bus, they were right there.
Oh yeah, there were drill sergeants, in their hats and uniform, and they were nice. They were polite. It wasn't the drill instructor. It wasn't the drill instructor stuff until we got to base.
Yeah.
But they were stern, and you could just tell, yes sir, no sir.
So you kind of knew in a way from your, I guess your stepfather, him being in the Army, he knew about kind of somewhat to expect a little bit, maybe?
Oh, absolutely, because I'd been to base with him several times, and I got to see early in the morning when he got there, and they had to come. It was a little different when I was in the Air Force because they were all in companies, barracks on base. They had to get up and
Muster?
They had to muster and get in formation and get their duties assigned to them or whatever, but they all met outside. They ran every other day. So I got to see that part of it. I got to see just about every aspect of it, the good and the bad.
Okay, so you knew what to expect.
Oh yeah, I had a general idea.
Okay. So when you got to basic, what was some of the first things you did when you got to basic training in Lackland?
Well, I remember that once we got there, they gave us a little speech and took us all into one main room, and they had the words painted on the wall. It was, "Sir, permission, Airman." It was, let me think how it went. I haven't said it in years. "Sir, Airman Basic Talley, permission to speak, sir." Something like that. And we had to say that every time. And they just gave us routine, what was expected of us. They just kind of gave us an informational step-by-step overview,
Okay.
the discipline, what would be expected, racial negativity would not be tolerated at all. There'd be no fighting. There'd be no negative, no negative things, no stealing, whatever. It'd be very harsh penalties if people, broke those rules.
Yeah.
And basically, they just wanted you to apply common sense and a code of morals and ethics.
Okay. So that was pretty good starting out, wasn't it?
Well, it was a clean slate, for everybody. And some people got in trouble. Some people didn't think the rules applied to them, or they were smarter than the TIs. And some of us got along just fine. My basic training was the best 8 weeks of my life.
Really?
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah. So I haven't asked this to anybody before, but we were talking when I first met you, and I'm 6'6", and you're 6'6" or 6'7".
Well, I used to be 6'7", right on the dot.
Okay.
Just maybe 6'7 and a half. But I broke my back a few years ago. I've got fusions of the L4 and L5, 2 rods and 4 screws.
Okay.
So I lost like maybe a half an inch
Okay.
from surgery.
So when you were 19 or 20 years old, you were about 6'8", 6'7"?
Yes. I played basketball. I loved it.
So how did the uniforms and the shoes? Because I wore a size 16 shoe. You wore like 17. How did that go? How did that go over? I mean, did you have a hard time finding shoes and uniforms, or?
Well, they had the boots. The size 16 boots ran a little big, so I was okay there. But of course, I went into service November of '87. So even in Texas, it gets cold at night. And part of your training, your basic training, is you have to do parades and things of that nature. Well, they didn't have any shirts to fit me. I looked like Lurch from...
Because,
Yeah, and the pants weren't exactly ideal. So they had to leave one person back at every parade on fire check. So I got that every time because they just didn't have my clothes ready.
what about your duty clothes, like like in that picture, your green uniform? Do they have do those fit you?
They had to do a little tailoring for the pants and the shirts.
Okay.
But I did stay in my civilian clothes for an extra 2 or 3 days, just because they had, I don't remember exactly. It's a big, huge wave. They take you to get haircuts, and they go get your clothes and your blankets, and it just seems like it's a bum rush. And then you end up going to the PX, and you have to get deodorant and things like that.
Was there anybody else there taller as you, or not?
No.
You were pretty head and shoulders above everybody else.
Exactly.
Do you feel like maybe did they like the drill sergeant or whatever? Did he try and make an example of you because you were bigger or taller, or you stood out, or?
Well, no, not really. I was the tallest one in the flights here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the tallest one.
In the back.
I'm in the back row. I'm very proud of this.
Where were you? Which one were you?
Let me see. Right there in the middle.
Okay.
I was skinny back then. But these are a really good group of guys.
You might hold it up kind of in front of your face so that people see it. Yeah. Okay. So that, yeah. Yeah, because I'm always stick in the back. Take a picture, the tall person sits in the back. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And my drill sergeant Pinkard was a really good guy, black gentleman. He was he did judo and martial arts. He was sponsored by the Air Force. I think he was, in his class, he was 16th in the world.
Okay.
And he competed at events, representing the Air Force. So he was built and squared away. And then he was Sergeant Pinker. Then I remember Daniel I. Beck. I'll never forget it. He was about 6'5", and he put that brim of that little hat right there. Am I going to have any problem with you, son? You just a big ugly son of a bitch, ain't you? I said, sir, yes, sir. And that was it. And, I was always raised to be a good-hearted person.
Yeah, I was too.
You know, I never had to prove myself. I didn't have to, you know, some people get bigger than others, they want to bully people or they're whatever. I'd hug you to death before I get mad at you.
Yeah.
And I think they figured that stuff out pretty quick. Who's going to be troublemakers? Who's going to do what?
Yeah. Well, you don't really have anything to prove, really.
No.
You're 6'7".
No, not really. I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah. Did you remember calling home during your basic training?
Yes, I remember calling home. Of course, there's a little bit of homesickness.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But some people were really had it bad, some not so much. I just wanted to make sure to let them know I got there okay and everything's going good, and you know, and it was important for me too because I had lost my sister and father so young, and my other sister moved off, got married. Me and my mom were very close, and you know, we just until she passed away 3 years ago, we really just had each other.
Yeah. That would make, I guess we were talking about you losing your sister at an early age, and that makes you really appreciate what you have. You don't take things for granted, do you?
No, I was born May of 67. Dad was killed the first week in March 72. My sister Ann was 15. She got killed the first week in March 73. I remember the funeral homes. They had a fountain out front with lilies and goldfish in it. I remember that. And I can remember them, they're in a mausoleum. They're each one's in a mausoleum up in Indianapolis. And I can remember one of Mom's co-workers at Western Electric was going to take me home. Mom didn't want me to go into the mausoleum to see the casket put in. I'll never forget it. And they said, well, come on, Bobby. Aunt's got to go night-night, and we're going to go. And I don't know how anybody else is, but with my mom and my aunt and stuff, all of us kids were like, if we went to bed, you hug people good night. Sometimes you kiss them like, you know, good night, and you go upstairs to go to bed, and they tuck you in.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have enough sense to figure out what the truth was, so I take off down the center of the thing, jump up in. Didn't go into the casket, but I jumped up on the edge, like I balanced, and I hugged Ann, and I kissed her on the head, on the forehead.
Your sister?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just remember a lot of crying, and like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, I mean, that was really touching.
Yeah. And as I got older, you know, we never moved. We were in the same house, and I went to the same elementary schools and junior high school my sisters did. And I remember my freshman year, I started going through, I'm in high school now, I'm a freshman. So I'm meeting all these teachers, and they, Talley, that sounds familiar. And it's like, was your sisters Pam and Ann? I said, yeah, I'm their little brother. And it's like, I just heard all these memories of how fond they were, Pam and Ann, and how nice Ann was. And I had two teachers tell me privately, said, look, man, the day your sister got killed, the night we heard about it, we threw up. I mean, we were crushed, like we lost one of our own kids.
Yeah.
And to follow up, I met people that knew Ann, 30 years later on Facebook. Well, apparently, the last school day before Ann passed away in art class, the teacher asked the class, well, what one thing could you have right now what one thing would you want right now? And Ann raised her hand, and I don't know if she was serious or not, but she said a joint.
Yeah.
Well, this is, 73.
Yeah.
So from what I'm told, and I believe it, when Ann was in her casket, probably anywhere from 28 to 30 joints were put in the casket, in her pockets, as, I don't know, I guess it was a thing they did back in 73, but yeah, I guess there was quite a few joints buried with my sister.
Yeah.
Because that's the last thing she said in class.
Yeah, I guess that's what they remembered.
Yeah.
So when you got out of basic training, what was your MOS?
Well, I went in, I ended up being open general.
Okay. Can you maybe explain what open general means?
Open general is you don't have a specific job.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a security officer. I had a clean record. High school, I was a 3 point, I think my grade point average was like 3.89 or 3.90
Okay.
through high school. No problem with the law or drugs. And the recruiter said, oh, they'll make you an SP as big as you are. So we went open general.
Okay.
He promised me and my stepdad it wouldn't be an issue. I get down to basic training. They ask you what you've done. They ask you what your options are. That particular week, they had all the SPs they wanted. So because I had some medical background and some cooking background at my cousin's restaurant, I ended up going into the what they call nutritional medicine.
That's not law enforcement.
No.
Is it?
No.
Does that kind of bother you, or
Well, I was a little disappointed.
disappointed? You get your hopes up for something.
Yeah. But I've always been a people person.
Okay.
I enjoyed serving. We were cooks and dietitians is what we did. We served hospital staff and patients. And of course we did the patients upstairs that are admitted. We had aeromedical staging flights that flew out every morning early. So we had, what they call 4 o'clock breakfast. So, I was proud to see people smile, and I've been cooking all my life anyway, so.
Now, what was this in Texas?
No, this was at Scott Air Force Base, Illinois.
Illinois. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is a hospital in a military hospital
Yeah.
in Illinois. Okay.
Medical Center, Scott Air Force Base. It had 7 major commands, but it was a MAC base.
Okay, so this is where you went after your basic training.
I went DDA, direct duty assignment.
Okay. What what was your daily, if you had a typical day, what would your typical day be?
Well, since I was a low man on totem pole, I had to do what they call 4 o'clock cook. So I had to get up and be on duty between 3:15 and 3:30. I turn off on the steam pots. I get the day rolling. I would prepare everything for the people out front, for the early patients, on the aeromedical staging flights. And what we served, we had a huge grill, and we had a whole thing to the right of us. We did everything to order: French toast, pancakes, eggs, whatever you wanted. We could add like 6 different items. We had bacon prepared, sausage, all that stuff. Gravy, grits, oatmeal.
Okay, so it's a pretty good breakfast, right?
Oh yeah, they didn't spare any expense at all. It was awesome.
Okay, and so that was your job.
That, and sometimes I'd work day shift or whatever. Like I said, when you're low man on the totem pole and new, you kind of get the grunt jobs until you get a little rank and experience.
How long did you work that shift?
The whole 4 years I was in.
Okay, so you just worked in like the morning?
Well, a lot of times it was the mornings. I got a lot of weekends at first. They tried to rotate it though. We had a lot of civilians working there too. Experienced cooks like retired from the military and whatever, like G-18s, G-19s, which was a civilian pay grades.
Yeah, because my sister works at Fort Campbell. She's civilian. They got the Gs 12
Right.
and 13.
Exactly.
So did you enjoy doing that?
Oh yes.
You said you were a people person, so you got to see people and talk to a lot of different people.
Well, I like to talk.
Okay.
I ain't never met a stranger. And so while you're cooking their eggs to order or whatever, you had to be able to, you couldn't stand there for 30 minutes and talk to somebody. You had to get them in and out. But that person in front of you for that 30 to 45 seconds is the most important person at the time.
Okay.
You don't know what's going on with why they're there, what illness they have, what's happened to them. You want to make them feel wanted and important. Feed them a good breakfast. You don't know where they were going. Some of them were people had cancer, they'd lost limbs in service-related incidents or, off-base activities. They would fly all around the world to get treatment. But we were one of the staging flights where they were centrally located out of.
Yeah, so the least you can do is maybe be polite to them and give them a good breakfast.
Oh yeah, say hi. Like I said, I ain't never met a stranger.
Did you eat your own food, your own cooking?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
See, like I said, at an early age, I had to grow up quick, and my mom is one of six daughters and 4 sons, and all of them cooked country. I mean, they were biscuits and gravy, everything from scratch. So yeah, I grew up cooking anyway.
Okay. So when you got done with your duty, what did you do? It's kind of like going to a job. You do your job, and you go. What did you do in your free time? Did you have any free time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we sometimes when we were really shorthanded, we do 2 off, 2 on. I'd have to work from 3:30 a.m. till 7:30 at night.
Okay.
And that really sucked. It just, those hours are just awful. I was on the base basketball team. I was on the medical center ball team. Girls, having some beer on the weekends. I mean, there's a lot of social activities going on, but you have to be able to understand that you can't party all the time and not do your duty. And some people can multitask and know when to say when. Some of them just couldn't. So I saw friends of mine that were really good people, but they didn't know how to put the beer down or the bourbon.
Yeah.
And it got them in trouble.
That probably didn't mix well with the military, did it?
No, not at all.
Did you have people? Did you just have a group of people you hung out with, or was it like several people that you were really close with?
Both.
Both.
Yeah. They'd have little parties there on base, NCO club. Yeah, I could go. I mean, I had a small circle of friends, but I also had other associates, or it really didn't matter.
Okay. Did you spend all your time in the same duty station in Indianapolis?
No, this is in Illinois.
Oh, Illinois.
Yeah, that's all right. Yes, my whole service career was at Scott Air Force Base.
Okay. So how big a place is the Air Force base? Is it?
It's huge.
Huge.
It's big. It's basically
like a city of its own.
Well, yeah. The comment was why not Scott or something. Basically, it's a German area of Illinois that are predominantly German, and they put a base right in the middle of all these cornfields. You had Mascoutah, Fairview, O'Fallon, Illinois.
Okay.
And that's where the mall was at, or bigger places, where the bars and restaurants. But basically, it was just in the middle of a bunch of cornfields.
How did you when you started your occupation in the Air Force? Did you kind of forget about being a military policeman, or did you still want to be that? Or
I thought maybe I could cross train. There was other options, but this was what was handed to me. This is what my duty was. I remember the first winter, I didn't get a car till spring, and I had to walk about 3/4 of a mile from the dorms to the hospital, and it gets cold in Illinois.
Oh yeah. Do you remember going home any on leave?
Oh yeah, once I got my car, Kentucky was not really that far away. I think it's probably 4.5, 5 hours. So you can go I live down in Tompkinsville, so you have to take 65 south. Basically, and when I first started, I would go straight from Illinois to Louisville, and then down 65. And then later on, I learned another route, taking I think it was 24 west, and you come in right above Nashville.
Okay.
And it's like an hour shorter.
Do you remember when the Desert Storm started? Do you remember where were you at when that started?
Absolutely. I remember leading up to before it ever happened.
Okay.
We were doing all types of training exercises, like switching over our coolers, our big walk-in refrigerators, over to morgues.
Yeah.
So it's like that was a little bit different. We hadn't heard anything yet, but we were doing all these training exercises, getting prepared. So I think the people higher up
do something.
Right.
Yeah.
And started doing preparedness drills. And then they put a list up for people to go, that we had to send people to the Straits of Oman. And I was first person to sign on the list,
Okay.
first or second. I mean, I'm trying to be honest, it was first or second on the list. But because I was still really new, I was still an E3.
Okay.
Or no, sorry, I was E2, excuse me.
Okay.
But there's, people, staff, tech, masters, senior masters. So I didn't get to go, but I was one of the first ones to volunteer.
Okay. So that was kind of where, I guess, if I remember it right, I was in high school, but George Bush, the father, he more or less told Saddam Hussein it's time to behave and go back to where you came from.
Exactly.
And so did he give him like a certain date or certain, I forget the.
He gave him an ultimatum. And if you remember, see, Storm and Shield, we got the easy one. During service members during that time. Now, when it went to more in-depth, not in-depth, more intense times, like when they went into Afghanistan and they hunted Saddam Hussein and all that for the people after us,
Yeah.
the people doing 2 and 3, 4 tours.
Yeah.
We got by easy because it was over as soon as it started.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember being in high school and hearing the air war. It started and it was, I think it was sometime the 1st of January maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing that was the air war started.
Oh yeah, they just pounded them. America was so overly prepared, and I believe it was America, Britain, France. We had several people just air assaults, bombs. It was we just overwhelmed them.
Yeah, and I remember watching television where I guess the Iraqis, they had old Soviet World War II tanks, and we were shooting them like 2-3 miles away with Abrams tanks.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember it was on TV a lot.
Yeah.
That was really the first. I know in the '60s, Vietnam, you had people that had cameras and documented a lot of the war and the really harsh things. A lot of death and things like that.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, Storm and Shield was the first time that you were in there with the scopes, and you were like sitting in the tank with the guys, and you could see the missile and the tank blow up, and
Yeah,
it's almost like a video game.
It was kind of like a high tech.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, high tech. Yeah. And so, did you know anybody that was deployed to Desert Storm?
Oh yeah, there was 15 people from our section and our entire hospital. See, a lot of places have specific duty centers.
Okay.
Their assignments. So ours was the Middle East, Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
So if something happened, we knew we were going.
Okay.
So they set up a hospital there. I mean, they took surgeons from the hospital. They took from every department, and then they brought in the Air Force reserves. We had a lot of reservists come in to fill the spots. Some of the reserves went over with them. That way, everything here kept running too.
Okay. Now you've brought some of your dog tags and stuff. Do you want to show them and talk about them or what they?
Well, it was always important for me to keep my dog tags,
Okay.
just as a matter of pride.
Okay.
I should have 2, and when my mom was very proud of my service, so I put one in the casket with her.
Okay. That makes sense.
I'm also a Mason. In fact, this year is my 25th year as a Mason, and I've collected, Mason pins over the years. But I kept my U.S. from my uniforms, and there's one of my ribbons from when I was in service. And I've always kept this. This was let me see here. Let me get this set straight. This was a Desert Storm Serving with Honor pin, because they would do things to raise money for like the VA and vets with disabilities and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, I see that's a Desert Storm.
Yeah. So there's some of the things I'm proud of.
Do you have any other pictures or?
That's the only ones I brought.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to show that again? And I know you're
Oh.
with your yeah. That's your graduation class?
Yes.
Okay. And that says Lakeland Air Force Base, Texas.
Lackland. San Antonio, Texas.
November the 18th, 1987.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Is that enough?
Yeah.
So, I look at these pictures, these gentlemen.
Do you keep up with any
I tried to for a little while.
guys? There's probably some of them that have passed away, probably, haven't there?
Well, or, I'm 50.
Okay.
And-
They might be a sickness or car wreck or.
Well, you have to think, going by percentages, probably some of them have passed away for whatever reasons. But I remember stories for most of them. When we did our basic training endurance test, you had to do the obstacle course.
How did you do that? How did you do?
Well, I did really well. Look, the truth is I'm tall, white, and uncoordinated.
Yeah.
I've always been that way. But when I got to the parallel bars, there's a big creek, and other people had already been sweaty. It was old iron,
Yeah.
And I got right to the middle and was going over, and I just couldn't get a grip, and I went straight down. Well, it was like 5 foot of water.
Okay.
And I remember Sergeant Pinker said, "Talley, do I need to come get you?" I said, "No, sir." I said, I was in the swimming team, so I didn't have any issues with water at all. And it was a little cold, but not like bad. So he said, then he went from the drill sergeant to "You think you can handle that for about 30 minutes, big guy? Just in case someone else falls in?" I said, "Yes, sir, that's fine." So probably for 30, maybe 45 minutes, I just stood there in the water. About 4 or 5 people fell in, and I picked them up and got them up the hill, the creek bank.
Was the water cold or was it?
It was a little chilly, but it wasn't anything I couldn't.
Do you think he did that for a test or because he trusted you or?
He trusted me, because when we were alone, and at that point of basic training, we advanced a little bit farther, and he just you could just tell his tones like, are you all right? Would you care to stay in there? I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, I appreciate it." You had that little bit of interaction, but it wasn't like we were shaking hands.
Yeah.
And,
He had a little respect for you because you've proven yourself a little
right.
bit.
And I said, I volunteered to stay in there because like I said, I'm the tallest one in there. We had some guys that were like 4'11", 5 foot tall. That they literally had been right to their noses.
Yeah.
So that was fine. And then when we all got done, everybody else had to march back. They let me take the ride back in the car because I was getting cold. I was starting to shiver just a hair.
Yeah.
So they got me straight back so I can go change. And then I remember one of the nicest things they did was, and I'm not trying to overplay this, I was a little cold and everything. So when they went to chow, they brought me back chow to go. And then he made sure I was okay. And he said, "Look, once you eat," he said, go ahead and lay down because I know that took a lot out of you because it was a little cold. And it's not like they just threw you to the wolves. And the 3 or 4 guys that fell in, they were just tickled to death with me that I was in there to get them because one of them couldn't swim, literally.
Yeah.
He panicked, so I just grabbed him by the tail end of and I just walked him up the, So like I said, I used to be a lifeguard, so I was used to people sometimes panicking.
Yeah. So when you got down with your, you were in the Air Force for what, 4 years?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. So when you're 4 years, did you say well, it's time to maybe move on or?
Well, see, Clinton got elected.
Okay.
And he was coming in with this plan to, where the Republicans had made the military bigger and expanded it. He wanted to draw it down some.
Okay.
So they had a program like if you were a tech sergeant with 18 years, okay, this is worth this much money. We'll give you $28,000, for example. I don't know what the real numbers were, to just go leave now. No retirement. We don't owe you nothing. You don't owe us nothing, and we'll give you $28,000 to leave. And people with 10 years or 12 years. A lot of people took the money and ran.
Okay.
there was no cross-training available. Everything was frozen. Plus, in our duty section, we were understaffed to begin with. We couldn't, none of us were allowed to, we were allowed to re-enlist if we wanted to, but we couldn't cross-train out. So either you're going to re-enlist and do the same thing again for 4 years, and I just chose I didn't want to do that for 4 more years. If I could have cross-trained, I would have went SP, maybe CBPO,
Okay.
something different.
So when you got out of the Air Force, what was your next step? Where did you go from there?
Well, I came back to home, Kentucky for a few months, and I stayed at my parents' home. And then I took a job with Schwann's Ice Cream.
Okay.
I worked for them for 3.5 years. I moved to Bowling Green, Kentucky. I've been here ever since.
Okay. Do you have the GI Bill?
Yes.
Okay. Did you use your GI Bill?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of education did you use as GI Bill?
Well, I had intended to go back to nursing school,
Okay.
and I broke my back. I was working at Walmart third shift. So between Walmart and workers' comp, they finally got things squared away. I had to have surgery. I was off surgery, recovered for 13 months, which, you think at first that's really great.
But you get old.
Oh my goodness. I was going crazy after a month and a half. I don't know, fantasy football is a huge thing. I had 32 fantasy football teams. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Fox Sports, ESPN, Yahoo, CBS, NBC, just to keep my time consumed.
So, how long did you work for Swans?
3.5 years.
Okay. What was your next step from?
Next step was from Schwann's was I went into home health.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I went into home health because at Schwann's I was working 80, 100 hours a week,
Okay.
and that got old after a while. Then I went into home health. I'd always, even before I went to service, I just have a way with older people. I always have.
Okay.
Some people hug trees and save the whales. My thing's always been the elderly.
Okay.
The first exposure to I had to what we call Alzheimer's now, dementia, was with my Uncle Joe.
Okay.
And back then, it was, he's got hardened arteries. He just ain't right. They didn't even call it dementia or Alzheimer's
Okay.
back then. So he was a handful for a while, and we had to eventually put him in the VA home in Louisville
Okay.
because Grandma just
Couldn't handle it. It's a
Yeah,
lot of work. Yeah.
right. And the family tried to be supportive, but it just had to be that way. So I think that was what attracted me to those people, to try to be helpful. And then, I've done the CNA stuff, hospice, home health, all that. And then I decided, I want to go be a nurse. I want to take care of my college and be a nurse, or maybe go into respiratory therapy. And then that's when I got hurt and broke my back.
Yeah.
So between a GI Bill and I got a small settlement at the end of it. So I paid off all my debt. I lived within my means. I went back to school, got my diploma, associate's degree, what they call MIT,
Okay.
and I got 3 specialties that go along with that degree. Basically, I can go in and do coding, accounting, help run an office, things like that.
Okay. So what are you doing now?
Right now, I have 2 jobs.
Okay.
I've been working as a security officer for Allied Universal, working at the Fruit of the Loom headquarters here in Bowling Green.
Okay.
And I just got hired today at what they call home instead of care.
Okay.
It's you travel to patients' homes, you have different levels of care,
Okay.
and I love it. I miss
Okay.
the people.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. It's like you're right up your alley.
Yeah, they hired me on the spot,
Yeah. So in closing, I always give the floors open to you. Is there anything that you like to maybe close the interview with? And what are your thoughts and feelings about the military today, and maybe the flag, and how you feel about things?
I'm certainly, I'm a Republican. I'm very conservative in most things, but I don't follow the party lines to the point where you don't listen to other people. I vote for the person or the man or woman who's going to do the best job in that position. And sometimes I voted Democrat because it's a better candidate, whether it's a local election or national election or state election, whatever it is.
Okay.
I'm very big on the protection of the flag. I would take a bullet if I had to keep the American flag from being burned or thrown to the ground. That may be over exaggeration, but I would. I'm old-fashioned to the point where, like this, the NFL issues around all these people kneeling and not paying respect to the flag, I think is wrong. I mean, they have every level to express themselves, every outlet to be heard.
Yeah.
At least respect the flag and the service members, past and present and current, that's holding that flag on the football field.
Yeah.
I'm very patriotic. I'm very proud that I serve my country. I really can't complain. I mean, I've lived a fairly blessed life. I'll never own a Cadillac or a $1 million mansion, but my conscience is clear. I sleep well at night, and
Yeah, well, that's what matters.
I followed in my family's footstep of being a Mason. I've been a Mason 25
Yeah,
years.
I saw your ring,
Yeah.
masonry.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you think about the flag and respecting the flag, do you think somewhat? I mean, it's got to be in the back of your head. You think about probably your stepfather, right?
Yes.
Think about what he did and the things he saw, and probably.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know that one time we come down from Indianapolis. A bunch of us family members had to go like 6 or 8 houseboats down at Dale Hollow Lake, and my uncles and them were in the front of one of the houseboats playing poker. And my cousin Billy, who's always a smart aleck, threw some fireworks toward the front of the boat, and they went off. And Don picked up the table, and he just had this flashback, like he was in Vietnam. And he's hollering orders to get down and everything, and it took Mom and I think 3 of my uncles to just grab him, calm him down. Don, you're here.
Yeah.
And
I know the old timers used to call it shell shock, but today they call it PTSD.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when we lived in Indianapolis, one of the first times when I got older and I went out with some friends and came home before my curfew, I was trying to be quiet. Go in the front door, and I'm really quiet. And my stepdad was awake, and he said, "Son," he said, "I knew you were home." I said, "Okay, I was just trying to be respectful." He said, "You took 13 steps coming from the door. You went to the kitchen. You opened the refrigerator door. You took 2 steps to the left. You took 8 up the stairs. You took right." He knew everything in the dark.
Yeah.
That was amazing to me. And I guess it was just from Vietnam.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's it. To me, I'm like yourself because I've been around the military all my life, and my father and my stuff. And what people need to realize what the flag represents and have respect, because a lot of countries, you wouldn't even get the right to be disrespectful to the flag.
Well, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I mean,
I understand.
The thing is,
Yeah.
like flag burning.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court said that's an expression of freedom of speech. Okay? And I'm a strong believer in that. I don't have to agree with you. I believe in the ability to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Just don't tell me what I believe. Respect's a two-way street. That's how I've always kind of lived my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I'll just, in my opinion, I think it's one thing to disagree with someone, but I think when you do stuff like that towards the flag, you're being disrespectful towards your stepfather and my father and yourself and all the other people, that the things that they've sacrificed.
I believe the same way.
Yeah.
You stand for the flag, you kneel to pray.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things, and it's patriotism is how you were raised.
It is.
When I was I can remember, I don't know what they do now, but when I was in elementary school in Indianapolis, You said the Pledge of Allegiance every morning. We actually had a morning prayer, believe it or not. And every morning, I remember it was Mrs. Rupp and Miss Black were my two teachers in elementary school from like first grade to 6th grade.
Okay.
And you know, every branch has their own song.
Yeah.
You know, well, we played one each morning and we sang it.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff I remember when I was growing up. There wasn't any of this sitting down or whatever. Or you participated.
Yeah.
The biggest cancer in the world is political correctness.
Yeah. Well, I think you have the right to say that. If anybody has the right to say that, you have a right because of your service. And I just wanted to thank you for this interview, and it was good talking to you. And it's this program is about sharing your story, and I appreciate that.
Well, have we covered everything you want to cover?
Yes, sir, we have.
All right. Well, I told you when you sat down, you said we had to have at least 30 minutes. I thought, well, I got 2 hours.
Yeah.
Me, I ain't afraid to talk.
Well, it was good talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.